All right, from hot water outages to rodent infestations and non-functioning heat units, the annual list of worst landlords right here in the city, it was just released.
Now, according to the New York City public advocate, Jumaane Williams, the same landlord is on the list. He tops the list. He topped it in 22. He topped it again in 23. It's not the list you want to be number one on, but apparently this guy don't care. He's got nearly 3,300 open violations between 306 units across 15 buildings. Jumaane Williams, our public advocate, is with us this morning. Does this guy not care?
You know, this is a public shaming, and sometimes it takes a little while to shame them enough. The building we were at yesterday, thankfully, those tenants have used the list and other tools to finally get some remedy. But Jonathan Santana / Daniel Obsalom, we have to say both of them legally because they like to switch around the names. Not only did they top themselves in terms of being on the list, they actually topped themselves in terms of how many violations they had. So they now have had more violations than in the history of the list twice. And that's disheartening, and even more so the building collapse that happened.
I was just wondering about the building collapse, because that guy was not on your top 10 list, was he?
Well, so the person who's listed on HPD as Yona Roth is connected to Jacob Zanger, who's listed on DOB.
Okay, so where does he fit on your list?
So one, there's a problem here because there's layer upon layer that makes it difficult to figure out who owns. But Jacob Zanger, who was also Jay Zanger, was number 81 last year and is number 50 this year.
Wow.
And so these lists and the things that we're doing to flag folks can potentially prevent things like the tragedy that we saw. Thank God no one died.
Okay, so when you create this list, have you reached out to some of the landlords and like, let me just sit down with you, let's talk. What is going on?
Well, most of the time when we write the lists, we get a lot of incoming of folks trying to get their name off of the list.
Yeah.
And the way to get yourself off of the list is to actually make the repairs. They do have some folks that are lower on the list, but sometimes that's because people have gotten so much worse. In the case Jonathan Santana and Daniel Obsalom. And we do know that banks look at the list, so sometimes it becomes an irritation to the landlords and to the owners. But we wanted to move from an irritation to something that's untenable. So what we want to see is not just higher fines. We do want to see some of these buildings just taken away. We do want to see some criminality attached to it. Thankfully, the building we went to, it's now under what's called a 7A administrator, so the owner can no longer collect rent. They had a $4.2 million fine attached to it.
That's rough.
That building
Wait,
should
hold
no
on,
longer
but if
be
you're
in the
fining them this money and they can't collect rent, then they cannot make repairs, no?
So, one, this fine is one of the biggest that has happened. And we need to make sure that it's not just the cost of doing business. And that's what has been. Even some small fines are just the cost of doing business. This is a step that's not usually taken, so usually the owners are still collecting rent. Most of the owners and managers who are on the 100 worst landlord list are still collecting rent, but not making the repairs. This is some of the most, we only see the violations growing and growing and growing. And we often try to blame the migrants for a lot of the things that are happening. But housing is actually the primary problem here. And if we had dealt with it, we wouldn't be in the situation we are. And preservation of housing is important. So when we allow these things to deteriorate, it becomes even worse.
Where's NYC, by the way? We're the worst. Isn't the city the worst landlord?
So the city is so bad, they're always in a category by themselves. So yes, they are number one. They have just about 570,000 open violations, and by comparison, the number one private was just about 3,300. So yes, they are the worst, and the amount it takes to get to where we need to be is grown to almost $80 billion with a B. That is absolutely something we need the federal government to assist with us. So it's both funding and better management by nature that's needed.
Can we talk about another subject that's in front of the City Council, a new bill, which I think, are you one of the sponsors or co-writers on this bill that would ultimately add more paperwork to the NYPD's day? Some people obviously have come out against it, like the police union and the Staten Island DA, which says it would make it unsafe for police officers, add more work to their day, and cost more. Why do you think this is necessary?
So one, I always try to tell people, let's at least agree on what we disagree about. And most of the folks who have come against it are actually disagreeing on some things that's not in the bill. And so what they have described is something we would never support, which is every time the police officers do something, every time they make a stop, they have to report it. That's not what this is about. And I would say we should go back about 12 years, because right now everybody would agree that the abuse of the stop, question, frisk was a problem. But if you look at what was sent out before we passed our bills, it's very similar to what's being heard now.
So just explain it to me, because some of the things that they, have reported is that if an officer gives somebody directions to a tourist, they got to write paperwork.
And that's absurd.
That's not true.
Of course it's not true.
Because,
no
we're still dealing with bail reform. And obviously there are people who think that reform needs to be done to bail reform.
Well, again, bail reform has been attached to a lot of the same kind of misinformation. And so we have to drill down on what actually is happening. Fear works, misinformation sadly works, and we have to focus on what actually is happening. So all we're saying is that when officers are doing investigatory stops, investigatory questions, we just want to get the demographics of who they're talking to. We don't need the name, we don't need where they live, and it's maybe 3 to 5 seconds, maybe 10, that can be done on the phone after they've had the conversation. If they're having 2 or 3, whenever they're sitting around, they can fill it out. So that's the real impact that can happen. We've been in conversations with the police department and the administration to see, let's make sure we can do this in a way that's the least administrative burden. But what they're doing is presenting the worst possible way and providing misinformation so they can scare everyone.
Maybe you could answer why, though. Why you think that we should be doing this?
Well, that's important. So, as I said, most folks would agree that while stop, question, frisk is a tool that officers need, it was abused. The only reason we know that is because we got data and lawmakers forced that data. And so there are other kind of stops that we have no data on. And so we just want to get some of the information so we can make sure everyone is providing the best policing for the entire city.
Well, police officers are retiring and they're leaving the force, and as you know,
I just want to be clear,
demoralized.
the things that you're saying now was said before the bills were passed 12 years ago, and then we had a record decline of crime 10 years after that. And so the things they said would happen didn't.
Well, listen, shoplifting and stabbing is a problem in the city. And shoplifting is not even reported.
But Rosanna, this is the kind of conversation we have to have and really be drilled down. What I'm saying to you is the hysteria that you're talking about now happened 12 years ago, but it never came to pass. So after our bills passed, that everybody said the sky would fall, after we started getting the data on the abuses of stop, question, and frisk, we actually had a decline in crime. 10-year record decline in crime. And the reason that I try to get past the hysteria that is based in people's real feeling is because if we can drill down on actual facts, we would all agree on what...
The fact is, though, is that we're seeing so many stores close up. The fact is that we're seeing this uptick in stabbings in high schools. Those are the facts.
Yeah, so that is a problem that we have to address. And we also have a lot of plans and ideas that we're trying to get across to actually deal with just that. This bill has nothing to do with that. Saying that we want to get information.
It is how people feel the perception. I'm just going to give you... Wait, can I just... Let me just say...
You need to help push back on the perception, not increase it.
No, the perception is this.
What's the perception?
There was a robbery at a CVS on 84th and Lex 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely.
Okay? The only reason why they called the police officers was because the guy had a hammer. He was hitting the people in the store, and he broke windows in the front. When the store clerk was questioned, they asked him, how many times a day do you get robbed? He said, I work from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. I only get robbed 11. It's really busy in the afternoon. So I'm just going to say, they don't call the cops.
Let me ask you a question. Should we have good policing?
Of course.
Should we have better policing if we can?
The problem is people are not calling the police.
That wasn't my question. I think we should have good policing, even better policing. And that means that we have to have information. So pretending that getting information somehow is attached to the problem you just said is the problem with this discussion. And that's why we always try to make sure, well, let's figure out what we're talking about. Because when we throw everything in a bucket, it doesn't help anyone, and it doesn't help that store owner. And I want to make sure that store owner is safe. I want to make sure that store owner believes that when he calls law enforcement, he's going to get the assistance that we need.
Hey, listen, by the way, your name is being bandied around in a poll. Number 2. If something should happen to the mayor, hypothetical, nobody is wishing that. If something should happen, you're number 2. What do you think?
Well, I think I'm the public advocate. and I want to be the public advocate. That's the job I applied for. And what my focus is on is really on the conversations that we just had, because it's important that people have that conversation in a space of somberness, because when we don't, we make bad decisions. And I want all New York City residents to be safe and feel safe. And we're not there yet, and we have a lot of work to do. And want to make sure that people are focused on the right discussions.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Jumaane Williams, public advocate.